When you hear fantasy games on the NES, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Maybe you're thinking of The Legend of Zelda, or you're possibly thinking of Final Fantasy, or maybe, just maybe, you're thinking of Castle of Dragon. No? Alright then. Well, either way, this is probably one of the more obscure titles on the NES as far as I'm concerned. Not a whole lot of people I know talk about it. Hell, the only reason I even own a copy of this is that a buddy of mine just gave me one. And so I figured, I might as well give it a shot. I mean, it can't be that bad, can it? What do you think, unnecessary clone of me? Just leave me alone already. God, what a terrific guy.
Castle of Dragon, an NES port of the arcade game of the same name, which looks like your every other hack and slash beat 'em up style kind of game. The story is about as generic as you can get with a game this old. Dragon kidnaps princess, save her royal ass, the end. Right off the bat, you're fighting a skeleton, one-on-one. You can't leave the screen, so obviously, this is a battle to the death. Just keep swinging your sword at him a few times and you win. Move forward a few steps and BATS! And eventually, you'll come across another guy you need to kill, one-on-one style, and you move on. That's it. That's the whole game. The gameplay is kind of somewhat of a beat 'em up. Sort of. You just kill one guy and then you move on to your next victim. In between, you'll come across two waves of smaller enemies, such as bats or evil chess pieces, that honestly, they don't do anything, and I think they take away your health, but it feels so negligible that I just run past them. Why have these smaller enemies if they do nothing? They don't try to attack you either. It just looks like they're on the way to catch the next bus or something, and I just happen to get in their way. It gets old quick. I wouldn't mind this mindless gameplay if it wasn't for the tiny fact that everything sucks. The combat is the most redundant thing in this game. While there are enemies that try and put in the effort of trying to fight you in weapon combat, most of your opponents have one of two strategies. Either they just run back and forth trying to touch you, and sometimes they'll even try to home in on you, or they will just stand there and shoot projectiles. That's it. You think that the forces under the rule of a goddamn dragon will be a little more threatening, but these guys make Princess Peach's security look airtight. And honestly, this game is not that hard. Okay, sure, I'll die every now and then, and you have almost no recovery time, but for the most part, hardly any of these guys pose any real threat. Hell, when it comes to the enemies that'll just home in on you, I got one strategy against them. Swing and jump over them. That's it. Rinse and repeat until they die, and you win. This isn't challenging, it's just tedious. Even some of the bosses are piss easy. There are only 3 real bosses in the game, and they follow a very specific pattern. Never deviates, never throws any real curveball, just this. Ah, damn it.
No extra lives, no continues, no nothing? What is this? You die once, you go back?
You have to beat the whole game without dying a single time. That is ridiculous. The closest that you get to an extra life is when you pick up a suit of armor. When your life bar reaches 0, your armor is gone, but you have 1 more bar of life to live with. Okay, I will be fair for a minute. First off, replenishing your life is kind of easy. If you pick up another suit of armor while wearing one, you're fully healed. Plus, every now and then, a fairy drops in, and if you touch it, you will be fully healed. Thankfully, these guys do pop up quite a bit throughout your journey, just don't swing your sword at them. Oops. Second, while you do get sent back to the title screen, it's not entirely sending you back to the beginning. What do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. 1, any and all new weapons that you find, which are the throwing knives and the mace, you keep on your next playthrough. And 2, you see this blue bar right here? That's your experience bar. For every major enemy you kill, you get some experience, and when the bar gets full, your health increases. You'll start with a measly 16 bars in the beginning, but eventually you'll max it out and reach to a total of 32 bars by the end. Thankfully, this too carries over on the next playthrough. Having the maze and more health does make it slightly more bearable to push through, and each level is ridiculously short. You can finish most of them in about 5 minutes or less. Still, it doesn't change the fact that you die, you go back. Imagine almost getting to the end. You slip up, and you gotta do the whole goddamn game over again, just to get back to where you left off. And the cherry on top, there are platforming sections too. Fall into the dark pit below, and you go back. I swear, nearly all of these platforms are stretched out as far as possible. And I don't know if it's my controller or what, but I swear, my guy just refuses to jump. Most of my deaths happen because my guy wouldn't jump, and he would just walk off the ledge. It's like he's asking to die.
I fell to the floor. Now, this game is just taunting me.
Every time you start the game or you beat the level, you're shown a map. And this is it, the whole game. Pretty small if you ask me. At least in Ghosts and Goblins, it looks like the map is actually a long trek forward. Here, it looks like the castle is just a block ahead. The first 3 levels are fairly straightforward. Keep moving in the opening area and the 2 levels on the forest, and you're already at the castle. Going through the roof, you'll come across more death traps that I've died to more times than I like to admit. Get some gold armor, and you'll fight a dragon with a chicken head. I should question this, but I feel like I don't want to know the answer. After defeating the boss, you're shown the map screen and you're sent to the roof. What? Okay, so I played through the level again, I beat the boss again, and oh my god, you've got to— what is going on? Okay, so after feeling like a dumbass for the last 5 minutes, I realized that once you reach the castle, you can select which rooms you want to tackle. Kind of wish I realized that sooner, but whatever. This castle has 5 rooms for you to traverse in. The middle hall is the one that the final boss occupies, but don't try and face him right off the bat. Do that and you instantly die. No chance to fight him, no chance to escape, you just watch yourself slowly wither away. I can only imagine the confusion someone had when they decided to pick this room first. So, what do you do then? Well, you must find 4 relics scattered in the castle, one at the end of the other 4 sections. You receive each of the relics in progressive order, meaning that no matter which order you tackle the sections of the castle, you're gonna get the same item order regardless. The section right below the roof also contains the second boss, who just jumps twice. That's his attack. You know, aren't dragons supposed to be these epic, terrifying creatures that can take on an army by themselves, breathe fire so hot that it melts steel, and are impenetrable to any known weapon? If so, then I'm starting to question how these guys are even terrifying their next door neighbors if their best strategy is jump and breathe easily avoidable fires. The only thing they've got for them is shoddy hitboxes. I'm never entirely sure where to hit them. It just seems like I get lucky if my weapon just happens to hit them. After many retries and falling to my death, I finally reached the end of the whole game. What's weird is that if you enter the main hall without the relics, you just face the final boss and die. But if you get all 4 relics beforehand, you're in a hallway with mirrors, and at the 3rd mirror, your reflection jumps out looking for a fight. He copies your move to a T and doesn't seem to be affected by any of my weapons. So, how do you win? Why, by hurting yourself until you're half dead. Great, perfect. That put the Shadow Link fight to shame. He drops a set of armor and 3 fairies drop down to heal you.
Then what was the purpose of fighting him if I'm just gonna heal back the damage right afterwards?
You know what? F it. I'm gonna move on and be done with this game. At the end, you're faced with probably the hardest fight in the game. this big dragon that breathes fire and stabs you with his tail. Much like the other bosses, his hitbox feels kind of shoddy. Even if my sword hits his head, it feels like it doesn't register it. And here's the kicker, even though you have on the armor that gives you 2 health bars, you actually only get 1 life bar. Lose the armor, and you die. And you know what that means? God damn it!
I have to do the whole thing over again? Alright, let's do this.
Alright, back to where I left off. Come on, you bastard. I'm not letting you kill me that easily again. Come on! Oh, thank God. After killing the dragon, our stalwart hero marches on to see his lady love, who runs to him, and they both just stare at each other as if they just realized they have no idea who the other person is. And credits.
If I haven't made it apparent yet, this game sucks.
The combat is lackluster, the levels feel the same, none of the major bosses pose any real threat, and it's short. Even with the amount of times I had to replay it, it only took me about 2 hours to finish it. That's why they designed it so you have to start over every time you die. But having to replay the same levels over and over just to get back to your last point makes it worse. I understand that NES games, much like arcades, makes games harder so you can get more time out of it. But for this game, the difficulty is not about tricky enemies or clever level design. It just wastes your time.
Once you get the hang of the gameplay, you can beat this game in about 30 minutes. And honestly, there are other games on the NES that extend their playtime far better than what this game does. They're a reasonable challenge, for the most part. And it's such a shame too. I wanted this to be a hidden gem in the NES library, but it's not. It's terrible. Well, at the very least though, I could always just stick to the classics. I mean, nothing could go wrong playing these, right? Right?